Listen to me closely. Right now, as you're watching this, the world knows too much about you. Your habits, your fears, your unfinished plans, your weaknesses disguised as routines. You wake up, you scroll, you talk, you explain yourself, you react. Noise surrounds you, and slowly, quietly, it drains your edge. You feel it, don't you? That sense that you're capable of more, but something invisible is holding you back. What if I told you the greatest move you could make right now is not to hustle harder, not to announce a new goal, not to seek motivation, but to vanish? To step away from the crowd, from validation, from distraction, and enter a 6-month silence that forges you into someone unrecognizable. Disappearing is not weakness, it is strategy. When you remain visible, you are predictable. People expect the same version of you, and unconsciously you perform to meet that expectation. You keep old patterns alive just by being seen. But when you disappear, you break the mirror. No one reflects your past back at you anymore. In that absence, you gain a rare freedom, the freedom to rebuild without commentary. For 6 months, you stop explaining yourself. You stop sharing plans that are still fragile. You stop leaking energy into opinions that don't sharpen you. In silence, every action becomes intentional, every movement precise, every mistake private and instructive. The world rewards loud confidence, but mastery is born in quiet repetition. When no one is watching, you train differently. You train honestly. You confront the parts of yourself you usually distract away. The laziness you joke about, the fear you dress up as logic, the discipline you promise but don't enforce. 6 months alone with your craft, your body, your mind forces a confrontation. There is no applause to lean on, no criticism to blame, only you and the work. This is where strength becomes internal, not performative. You begin to act not because you feel inspired, but because you have decided who you are becoming. Understand this: disappearance is not escape. It is deliberate isolation. You are not running from life, you are sharpening yourself for it. Think of a blade hammered repeatedly in fire and cooled in water. Each cycle looks violent, unnecessary, even destructive, but without it the blade remains soft, unreliable. Your 6 months are that fire. You cut off easy pleasures that dull you. You reduce your circle. You simplify your days. Wake up. Train your body. Train your skill. Study the mind. Rest with intention. Over time, your thoughts slow down. Your reactions soften. You begin to see situations clearly, without emotional fog. Most people live reactively. They answer messages immediately, jump on trends, argue opinions they didn't choose. When you disappear, you regain control of tempo. You decide when to speak, when to move, when to act. This alone gives you power. Power is not dominance over others. It is sovereignty over yourself. In 6 months of silence, you learn your rhythms. You discover how little you actually need to progress. You realize how much of your exhaustion came not from work, but from unnecessary engagement. The mind, once calm, becomes deadly accurate. You stop chasing 10 directions and walk one path with total commitment. When you return, and you will return, you will not need to announce it. People will feel it. Your posture will speak before your words. Your decisions will land with certainty. You will no longer rush to prove anything, because the proof lives inside your daily discipline. This is why disappearance works. It shifts your identity from someone trying to become into someone who already is. 6 months is not magic because of time. It is magic because of focus without interruption. Stay unseen long enough and you stop needing permission. When you first step into this silence, it will feel uncomfortable, almost painful. Your mind will search for escape, for noise, for someone to notice you're gone. This discomfort is not a problem. It is the first sign that the process is working. You've been conditioned to constant stimulation, to small hits of attention that keep you dependent and restless. In the absence of that, your thoughts grow louder, doubts rise, old memories surface. You may question whether this isolation is worth it. Stay. Do not negotiate with that voice. That voice is the residue of a weaker season, and it will fade once you refuse to feed it. As the days turn into weeks, something shifts. Your energy stops leaking in every direction. You begin to wake up with a quiet determination rather than urgency. Your routines tighten naturally. You no longer need motivation because there is nothing competing for your focus. Training becomes deeper, not longer. Learning becomes sharper, not rushed. You start to notice details others miss. The way your body responds to discipline. The way your mind settles when it's not constantly interrupted. This awareness is the foundation of real confidence, the kind that does not ask for validation. In isolation, you also confront your limits honestly. Without an audience, there's no benefit in pretending. If you're weak, you feel it. If you're inconsistent, it shows immediately. But instead of shame, there is clarity. You stop lying to yourself about what you're capable of right now and start building from truth. Progress accelerates when it's built on reality rather than fantasy. Each day becomes a quiet promise kept. Each session compounds into something solid. This is how ordinary effort transforms into something formidable, through consistency that no one sees. There will be moments when you feel invisible, even forgotten. Let that happen. Being forgotten is a gift. It removes pressure. It dissolves comparison. While others measure themselves against each other, you measure yourself against yesterday. This is where your identity begins to harden. You are no longer defined by reactions, likes, or approval. You define yourself by action. The world has a strange way of respecting those who respect their own path enough to walk it alone. As months pass, your patience grows. You stop craving immediate results. You understand that strength ripens quietly. Your emotions stabilize. Situations that once triggered you now feel distant, manageable. This emotional control is not suppression, it is mastery. You are no longer dragged by impulse. You choose responses with precision. This makes you dangerous in the best way. Calm, deliberate, unshakable. In a chaotic world, the one who moves slowly and clearly always holds the advantage. You will notice something else too. Your standards rise. You no longer tolerate sloppy thinking, wasted time, or shallow conversations. Not out of arrogance, but out of respect for the work you are doing. Your time becomes sacred, your attention becomes disciplined. You realize that most people never become exceptional, not because they lack talent, but because they never protect their focus long enough to develop it. 6 months of disappearance teaches you this lesson permanently. When the urge to return early appears, and it will, remember why you left. Returning too soon is like pulling a seed from the soil to check if it's growing. Growth requires darkness. It requires trust in the process. Stay hidden until the change is complete. When you finally step back into the world, you won't feel the need to explain where you've been. Your presence will answer that question for you. When you finally re-enter the world after this long silence, you will notice something unsettling and powerful at the same time. The world has not changed much, but you have. Conversations that once pulled you in now feel shallow. Arguments that used to drain you now seem unnecessary. You listen more, speak less, and when you do speak, your words carry weight. This is because you are no longer trying to convince anyone. You already convinced yourself through months of discipline when no one was watching. That kind of self-respect cannot be faked, and people sense it immediately. Others may ask what happened to you. Some will be curious, some suspicious, some quietly threatened. Do not explain in detail. The need to explain is a habit of insecurity. Let your consistency do the talking. Let your calm do the explaining. When you move without urgency, when you decide without hesitation, it disrupts the usual social rhythm. You are no longer reacting to energy, you are setting it. This is not dominance through force, but authority through presence. It comes from knowing exactly what you can endure and what you can create alone. During your disappearance, you learn to sit with discomfort without flinching. That skill becomes priceless in the outside world. Pressure no longer overwhelms you. Deadlines don't shake you. Criticism passes through you without sticking. You understand now that most fear is noise created by an undisciplined mind. You trained yours in silence. While others panic, you assess. While others rush, you wait. Timing becomes your ally. You move when the moment is right, not when emotion demands it. Your relationships also change. You stop seeking constant connection and start valuing alignment. You choose people carefully. You don't need many. One or two who understand your pace are enough. You are comfortable walking alone again if necessary. This independence makes your presence stronger, not colder. When you give attention, it is intentional. When you commit, it is solid. People trust those who are not desperate to be liked. You will also notice that opportunities begin to appear differently, not because the world suddenly favors you, but because your perception has sharpened. You see what is worth pursuing and what is a distraction. You say no without guilt. You say yes without doubt. This clarity saves years of wasted effort. It is the hidden reward of disappearance. While others scatter themselves thin, you concentrate your force in one direction, and concentrated force changes outcomes. We understand this deeply. The 6 months were never about hiding from the world. They were about stripping away everything that was not essential. The noise, the borrowed opinions, the false urgency, the performance. What remains is a quieter, sharper version of you. Someone who does not chase attention, but commands respect through discipline and restraint. This is the kind of person who cannot be easily manipulated, rushed, or broken. If you choose this path, do not romanticize it. It is lonely. It is demanding. It will test your resolve more than any public challenge ever could. But if you endure it fully, you will return with something rare in this age: depth. And depth always wins in the long run. The real test begins after the transformation, when life tries to pull you back into old rhythms. The world is persuasive. It will invite you to rush, to over-explain, to stay available at all times. This is where many fail, not because they didn't change, but because they didn't protect the change. The discipline you built in isolation must now become internal law. You don't need to disappear again in the same way, but you must carry that silence within you. You move through noise without absorbing it. You stay present without becoming reactive. This is balance, and it requires daily awareness. You learn to create pockets of solitude even in a crowded life. Early mornings, controlled routines, deliberate withdrawal from pointless engagement. These moments are not escapes, they are maintenance. Just as the body weakens without training, the mind dulls without quiet. You remember how sharp you became when your attention was undivided, and you refuse to give that edge away cheaply. Every decision now passes through a simple filter. Does this strengthen me or scatter me? That question becomes your compass. People may misunderstand your restraint. They may label it distance or arrogance. Let them. The need to be understood by everyone is another form of weakness. You are not here to fit in. You are here to be effective. True humility is not shrinking yourself for comfort. It is knowing your value and not advertising it. You act with precision, not excess. You choose words carefully. You conserve energy for what matters. This restraint makes you unpredictable in a world addicted to exposure. Over time, you realize something profound. The 6 months did not create a new you. They revealed the one that was always buried under noise. The discipline, the clarity, the calm, they were not added, they were uncovered. This realization changes how you approach challenges. You no longer fear losing momentum because you know how to rebuild it. You've done it once, from silence. You trust yourself now, deeply and quietly. And here is the final truth you must carry. Disappearing is not a one-time act. It is a mindset. Whenever life becomes loud, whenever you feel yourself drifting, you know the way back. You reduce input, you increase effort, you return to fundamentals. This ability makes you resilient beyond circumstance. Trends will come and go. Chaos will rise and fall. You will remain steady because your strength does not depend on external conditions. So, if you feel stuck, exposed, scattered or dull, don't ask for motivation. Don't announce a new chapter. Step away. Train in silence. Build without witnesses. Let 6 months of disciplined absence do what years of noisy effort could not. When you return, you won't need to say a word. The world will feel it. There is a moment, usually late into this journey, when you realize you no longer crave recognition at all, not because you've given up, but because you've outgrown the need. Praise feels light, criticism feels irrelevant. Both pass through you without altering your direction. This is when you know the foundation is solid. You are no longer driven by emotion, but by principle. Your actions come from a quiet internal order, not from external pressure. This is rare and it is powerful, because nothing outside of you can easily shake it anymore. At this stage, effort feels different. You no longer force yourself forward with willpower alone. Instead, discipline carries you. You show up not because you're excited, but because it's who you are now. Identity has replaced motivation. And identity is dangerous in the best way, because it doesn't negotiate. When you decide to train, you train. When you decide to study, you study. When you decide to rest, you rest. Fully. There is no inner debate, no wasted mental energy. That silence inside your head becomes your greatest advantage. You begin to see how most people sabotage themselves without realizing it. They talk too much about what they will do, they seek reassurance before acting, they expose unfinished ideas to unfinished minds. You no longer do this. You let results speak after the work is complete. This makes you efficient. It also makes you underestimated, which is always preferable. Being underestimated gives you room to move, to grow, to strike when the time is right without resistance. The discipline you've built also sharpens your intuition. Decisions come faster, clearer. You trust your judgment because it has been tested in solitude. You faced boredom, doubt and resistance alone and didn't break. That experience creates a quiet courage. Not the loud kind that seeks attention, but the steady kind that endures pressure. When uncertainty appears, you don't panic, you observe, you wait. You act only when action is necessary. This restraint often looks like slowness to others, but it is actually precision. You also stop fearing loneliness. Solitude no longer feels like absence, it feels like home. This changes everything. You are no longer afraid to walk away from situations that drain you. You are no longer afraid to be misunderstood. You can stand alone without feeling empty. And because of that, when you do choose connection, it is real, not dependent. You give from strength, not from need. This is the deeper reward of disappearing. Not success, not admiration, but self-command. The ability to sit with yourself in silence and feel no urge to escape. Most people never experience this. They fill every gap with noise because silence reveals too much. You faced it, you stayed, and because of that, you now move through life with a centered calm that very few possess. When you live from this place of inner command, life no longer feels like something happening to you. It feels like something you are moving through with awareness. Events lose their power to overwhelm you because you understand a simple truth now. Nothing external can create chaos unless your inner state allows it. You've trained yourself to pause before reacting, to observe before deciding. That pause is where mastery lives. Most people never find it. They live at the mercy of impulse. You do not. You choose your moves like a strategist, calmly, without emotional waste. You start to notice how time feels different. Days are no longer rushed or blurry. Each action feels deliberate, clean. You are fully present in what you are doing, whether it's working, training, resting, or speaking. There is no constant urge to be elsewhere. This presence sharpens your effectiveness. One focused hour now produces more than an entire distracted day used to. This is not because you became superhuman, but because you stopped splitting your attention. Focus, sustained and protected, is a force multiplier. Challenges still come, failure still happens, but your relationship with hardship has changed. You no longer dramatize it. You don't collapse into self-pity or anger. You examine it, extract the lesson, and adjust. Pain becomes information, not identity. This emotional maturity is what allows you to keep moving forward while others stall. You don't need perfect conditions to act. You act because acting is aligned with who you are. This makes you consistent in a world full of bursts and burnouts. At some point, you realize you are no longer chasing outcomes. You are committed to process. Winning becomes a byproduct, not an obsession. You measure success by how faithfully you follow your principles, not by how loudly the world responds. This frees you from anxiety. When you do your work properly, results arrive in their own time, and when they don't, you remain steady. Nothing feels wasted because every step reinforces your discipline. You also become harder to manipulate. Urgency no longer controls you. Flattery no longer clouds you. Fear no longer rushes you. You've seen how much you can build alone, without permission or applause. That knowledge is armor. You move through conversations and opportunities with clarity, never desperate, never rushed. You listen more than you speak, and when you speak, it is intentional. People feel that weight, even if they don't understand it. This is what disappearing teaches you at its deepest level: how to live from the inside out, how to let your inner structure dictate your outer life. Once you learn this, you are never truly lost again. No matter where life takes you, you know how to return to center. You know how to strip things back to essentials and rebuild. That is the kind of strength that doesn't fade with age or circumstance. This path is not glamorous. It won't be celebrated publicly, but it will give you something far more valuable than attention: control over your own direction. And in the long run, the person who controls their direction always arrives exactly where they intend to be. Eventually, you reach a quiet realization that changes how you see everything. You no longer need to prove that you are strong. You simply are. Strength stops being something you demonstrate and becomes something you embody. It shows up in how you sit with uncertainty without rushing to resolve it. It shows up in how you endure long stretches of effort without complaint. It shows up in how you walk away from what no longer aligns, even when it would be easier to stay. This kind of strength doesn't announce itself. It is felt, not seen, and that makes it untouchable. You begin to understand why so many people stay stuck. They are not incapable, they are scattered. Their energy is fragmented across too many concerns, too many opinions, too many distractions. You remember how it felt before you disappeared, how your mind was constantly pulled outward. Now you guard your attention like a warrior guards their blade. You do not let it dull on trivial battles. You choose where to invest it, knowing that whatever you consistently give your attention to, you become. There is also a humility that grows within you, not the kind that doubts itself, but the kind that knows how much there is still to refine. You stop rushing toward the finish line because you understand there is no finish, only deeper levels of mastery. This keeps you grounded. Each day becomes practice. Each challenge becomes training. Even rest becomes intentional, not indulgent. Life itself turns into a disciplined path, rather than a series of random events. You no longer fear starting over, because you know how powerful silence and focus can be. If everything were taken from you, you could rebuild again. That knowledge creates a deep inner security. You are not attached to appearances, titles, or temporary wins. You are attached to your ability to adapt, endure, and improve. That is something no one can take from you. It travels with you wherever you go. People may never fully understand your path, and that no longer bothers you. You've learned that understanding from others is optional. Understanding yourself is essential. You move quietly, act deliberately, and speak only when necessary. There is no rush, there is no panic, only steady forward movement, guided by discipline and clarity. This is why disappearing works. Not because it hides you, but because it removes what weakens you. It strips life down to effort, awareness, and choice. And once you've lived this way, even for a season, you are changed permanently. You may return to the world, but the world will never fully reclaim you. At this point, you start to notice a subtle shift in how you carry yourself. Your movements become economical, nothing extra. No wasted gestures, no wasted words. You are no longer trying to fill space. Silence doesn't make you uncomfortable anymore. It supports you. You can sit in a room and say nothing and still feel complete. This alone separates you from most people who rush to speak just to avoid feeling small. You don't need to do that now. Your sense of self is no longer tied to constant expression. It is anchored deeper in discipline lived repeatedly. You also become very aware of momentum, not the loud, chaotic kind, but the quiet kind that builds day by day. You understand how easy it is to lose it and how rare it is to protect it. So you simplify your life. Fewer commitments, clearer priorities. You stop confusing movement with progress. Everything you do now has intent behind it. If it doesn't serve your direction, you remove it without guilt. This is not coldness. This is respect for your own potential. There is a moment when you realize you don't need dramatic changes anymore. No reinvention, no extreme pivots. You've already done the hardest part, changing yourself at the root. Now growth becomes steady and almost boring to outsiders. And that is exactly how it should be. Real power rarely looks exciting from the outside. It looks repetitive, controlled, and calm. But beneath that calm is a force that can be applied at will. You also stop waiting for the perfect moment. You've learned that conditions are never perfect, and waiting is often disguised fear. Instead, you act when action is required, and wait when waiting is wiser. This balance is something you earned in silence. You trust your timing now. You don't second-guess every decision. Even when you make a mistake, you recover quickly, because your identity isn't fragile anymore. What surprises you most is how little you need to feel fulfilled. Your standards are high, but your needs are simple. A body that moves, a mind that sharpens, a path that feels true. That's enough. Excess no longer impresses you. You see how it weakens people by making them dependent. You choose restraint instead, because restraint keeps you free. And here is something most people never realize. Disappearing for 6 months teaches you how to live even when no one is watching. Once you have that, you are no longer controlled by audience or approval. Whether you are praised or ignored, you move forward the same way. This consistency makes you dangerous in the long run, because nothing pulls you off course. This is not a phase. It is not a challenge. It is a way of being that once learned stays with you. You can step into noise when necessary, and step back into silence when required. You are no longer trapped in either. You choose. And that ability to choose calmly, deliberately, without fear, is the real victory of disappearing. Now, imagine standing at the edge of your own life, not the life shaped by distractions, noise, and endless reactions, but the life forged in silence, discipline, and unshakable focus. This is where true power lives, not in the applause, but in the quiet moments when no one is watching and you decide to keep going. It's in those 6 months of disappearance that you become someone who doesn't need permission to be great. You build an unbreakable foundation beneath your feet, one that no storm can shake. The world will tempt you to stay visible, to chase approval, to respond to every call. But remember this, greatness does not come from being everywhere. It comes from being somewhere, fully, deeply, without compromise. When you choose to disappear, you choose yourself. You choose mastery over distraction. You choose depth over surface. You become a force of nature, moving with purpose, clarity, and calm. There will be moments of doubt, moments when the silence feels unbearable, but that is the fire refining you. Embrace it, lean into it, because on the other side of that discomfort lies the person you were always meant to be, stronger, wiser, and free. Free from noise, free from chaos, free to create your own destiny. So disappear if you must, not to hide, but to become unstoppable. The world will not know what hit it, and neither will you, until you rise, unstoppable and unshakable, ready to own your life like never before.